Tony?
I guess just as you're sitting here right now and looking at all this, former teammates, everything, just how overwhelming is this?
I mean, I think that just the support, whether it's, my family in the first couple rows, friends that have flown all over the country to come in, the support walking around the city the last few days, seeing number 5 on so many, the backs of so many people in New York has been humbling. Former teammates, I've gotten a chance to hang out with them the last couple of days, and as us old players like to do, reminisce about the good old days and the good times. But just an amazing experience that's only going to get better. Thanks to the organization, Steve and Alex, they've really made this nothing but a first class. I mean, they've gone over the top in accommodating, more people than they certainly should have. And just welcomed me and my family with open arms, along with the rest of the alumni.
Your last game here in 2018, a lot of people came out, similar circumstances for you. How do you think that compares to what you're feeling or what you think you might feel later today?
I mean, I think it's certainly different. The biggest difference to me would be, I certainly hope I can keep it together better today. But there's something to be said for taking off that uniform for the last time. And, today I view this as just an incredible, organic, relationship between me and my family, the city, the organization, the fan base. To me, the Mets fan base is a blue-collar, bring your lunch pail to work type fan base, and that's how I was raised, certainly, but that's how I tried to approach the game each day. Coming to the ballpark was, provide that blue collar mentality, and I think that's why that relationship with the Mets fan base has, become so special.
Andy?
Does it feel like a long time ago that you sat here and talked about your last game on that night, or does it feel like 2 seconds ago?
Hey, Andy. Well, I wouldn't be sitting up here. I mean, I saw the thing, Wright for Beltran in 04. That was
They should have done it.
we got both. So that they, I'm sorry. What was the question? I just saw you and I thought about that. Yeah.
Fair enough. This was a nicer topic. Yeah. Does this feel like you were just here, or does it feel like a million years ago that you sat here when your last time in uniform?
It feels like it was yesterday. It's a really neat feeling. It almost to me feels like the feeling you get when you come home from like a long trip, or you've been away and you get the chance to come home, and seeing the familiar faces from everybody from ownership on down to the team, and just the different smiles that you were accustomed to seeing on a daily basis. Now you get to see once a year, or whatever it is that we come back. It's just really neat, and it brings back a lot of memories to harp on the old person reminiscing thing. I catch myself reminiscing more than I ever did, when I played.
Gary, all right.
Hey, David, back here. 2 questions. One, we saw on the documentary this week some of your daily exercises. How are you feeling? Like, are you able to do daily activities? How do you feel at the...
Yeah, I mean, it's just the hardest part about the back thing is just the unknown. I think that I'm very routine-oriented, as you could probably ask my kids and my wife. I like to stay on schedule. And the hardest part of that is I can do the exercises, I can do everything I'm supposed to do, and for no rhyme or reason, it just doesn't, I'll hurt the next day, what it is. But I had another procedure about 1.5 years ago that has really solved some lingering things that were going on. So hopefully that does me some good for a little while. But for the most part, pretty solid. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but pretty good. But I guess the hardest part is the mental part of it, of not knowing, you could do everything right and you just don't see the results that you're expecting.
And David Peterson was saying how important his interactions with you in, I think, 2018 at Single A were, and how you taught him what it's like to be a Met, to be a professional ball player. There's so many homegrown players on this team. Do you feel a link to those guys, even if you didn't play with most of them, that you helped in some of their development and maybe maintain the chain that's been going on?
For sure. I mean, being a homegrown Met, being a Met since I was 18 years old, it hits harder for me. And those are the types of guys that, not that I don't root for everybody, but that I have a genuine rooting interest for, because, I know how special it is to put that uniform on, in particular for, a long period of time. So, those homegrown types of guys are guys that, I certainly pull for, that, whether it's once a year or when I was, seeing David in 2018, that I try to explain or as best I can put into words the impact and the meaningfulness of putting that uniform on. It's a special one, and I think that's the types of teams that this city really rallies around, are those homegrown guys that are drafted, developed by the organization, that go on to do great things and, hopefully bring a championship back to Queens. And, as we've seen, forever with the 86 team is, those are the teams, that are remembered and cherished. And that's what I want for, especially these homegrown guys.
Laura?
What are you looking forward to the most about today's festivities in particular?
Man, what am I looking forward to the most about today's festivities? I think to share it, with the people that I mentioned earlier, my family, my friends, the organization, the fan base. It's a uncomfortable feeling for me to, kind of be the center of the spotlight. I'd like to kind of share it with, everybody that's had an impact, in getting us or me to this point. And, that includes, more people that I can name, but certainly, that I mentioned before: friends, family, teammates, coaches, staff, the fans, the organization. It's just a lot.
And also, some of your kids were either very young or not even born yet when you retired. What do you think sharing this experience with them is going to be like?
I don't know. You can ask them. What do you guys think? What's the most exciting thing about today? Don't know. The cotton candy, probably. Yeah. I think I think that's, if I'm answering that question, it's something that, when we look back on this, I got a almost 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So it'll be cool one day. I'm not sure how much they'll remember from today, but to be able to get the video and every now and then play it, especially when they get to the age where they think Dad's not very cool.
Manny?
Congratulations, first off.
Thank you.
And just piggybacking off of Jerry's question, Max Kranick mentioned earlier this year that his coolest moment, debuting for his favorite team growing up, was receiving a text from you, I guess, prior to opening day. Is that something that you do for young players every year? And just why do you make that gesture?
I don't know. I mean, I guess part of it was, I used to, reach out when I played, whether we traded for somebody or, drafted somebody and kind of welcome them to the organization. And, I still follow from afar. I don't watch a lot of the games kind of play by play. I follow, but, 4 o'clock on the West Coast is kind of a tough draw with the kids. But, so I follow, so I know what's going on, and I read the stories. And, I reached out to Max just to congratulate him, and it was very cordial and very nice, and he was very appreciative. And then, of course, it turned, as we know, my buddy Rack is down in the bullpen, and I think he did something, where you got to give the young players a hard time, so they started calling him the franchise. So then I had to reach out again. Rack asked me to reach out and give him a hard time for, not following one of the rules or breaking one of the rules. So I had to give him a hard time about that. But it's fun to me, it's like the clubhouse banter that you really miss. And part of that and staying kind of somewhat in the loop, whether it's with Nimmo or Rack or, Mendy. I speak to Mendy. And it's really cool to just get back in the clubhouse and kind of talk shop a little bit, because I miss that.
And just, I wanted to get you on the record. Terry Collins mentioned yesterday they used to race with Jose Reyes during spring training. How many times did you beat him out in a foot race?
Right. What? Did we ever race? There's two guys standing next to each other. I could beat one of them, and I probably couldn't beat the other. Cliff's back there somewhere. I could beat him too. Yeah. But we did. That's like the, going into a clubhouse is like elementary school humor, and then it's like, Jose and I probably were talking trash to each other one day, and I bit off more than I could chew and tried to race him, and probably didn't go well for me.
Abby.
Just how much are you thinking about Shannon today?
I mean, Shannon's always, every time I walk into the building, it's I think about Shannon. We've been fortunate with, Jay Horwitz being as tremendous as he is has reminded in a lot of the stories that have been written this week, the impact that Shannon had on me. And, you want to talk about like yesterday. I mean, it feels like yesterday, we were at the All-Star game, here, laughing, having a good time. And, I think it just goes to remind everybody that, especially me, when I walk in here to enjoy it and to remember, the smile and, how, she just, no matter what she was going through, she was always concerned about everybody else. And I think that that's a great lesson, not just in baseball, but, a reminder in life when I walk into the building that the lessons that have kind of stuck with me from Shannon.
Ed.
Congratulations. How did you sleep last night?
Not good. Yeah, not good. This speech has me real nervous. Yeah.
And what were your perceptions of New York as a kid? And had you been to New York at all before you came to make your life here?
No. Well, I've been to New York once with my mom, my dad, and my three brothers. The Mets flew us up when I signed as an 18-year-old. We somehow got our hands, probably stole a batting practice ball each. They let us on the field. I don't know why. But, my brothers, and I thought I was too cool because, I was the 38th overall pick. So I told one of my brothers to, hey, go get me Mike Piazza's autograph. So they're running all over the field during batting practice, probably upsetting Bobby V, asking for autographs in the middle of batting practice. So that was the first time. The second time was flying over into LaGuardia after I got called up. So my perception of New York, I didn't know much about it. I mean, I knew that our AAA team was 15 minutes from where I grew up. My dad was a Norfolk police officer, so occasionally he'd take us, and a lot of his buddies kind of did security at the stadium, so he'd get us a foul ball or let us meet a player. And we were going through some pictures the other day. I got pictures with DJ Dozier and Clint Hurdle from when they were in Norfolk. That my dad probably asked a favor for one of his buddies that was working security to get us on the field and take those pictures. But really neat memories, and again, kind of storybook how grew up a Mets fan because of the Tides, drafted by the Mets, developed by guys that I grew up idolizing, and certainly my dad, with Hojo and Tim Tuffle and Straw, and these guys just being around the kid, just being around a lot and getting a chance to pick their brains. It's kind of just a crazy, crazy coincidence that I'm very thankful happened.
Mike on the left.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. David, is there any backstory on how you ended up with number 5?
I wish I had some cool story. I don't really have. I was always number 4, so in the minor leagues I always tried to be number 4. I was number 44 in Double-A because if my memory serves me right, they retired for Eric Cole, Brian Cole, who I never got a chance to meet. But I think that's correct. So that I wore number 44. I got called up halfway through the season to Norfolk and randomly had 5 hanging in my locker with no rhyme or reason. And that was one of the coolest things, as I mentioned, flying over Shea into LaGuardia. I went straight from the airport to the ballpark, and I couldn't wait to see what number I was going to be, because that spring I was number 72 and would have been perfectly happy with 72. But later on I found out that Charlie Samuels, the old equipment manager, gave me 5 because of Brooks Robinson and George Brett.
Also, I read in an interview this week that you said you could tell somebody's motive by looking into their eyes. What did you see when you looked into Jeff Francoeur's eyes?
I thought you were going to ask about yourself, and I was like, we're going to have to take this outside, Mike. No. Well, Jeff Francoeurs' eyes, first of all, they're big. He's got those big eyes, so it doesn't take a lot to look into his eyes. But you could tell the genuine enthusiasm that he has for everything he does. So to answer that question, that's an easy one.
Mike on the right.
David, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Your best game memories of playing at Shea Stadium. What's the one or two things that pop out in your mind as the most exciting or best games?
I mean, there's a few that pop out. I would say the first thing that pops out is the playoff run in 06. Certainly, and there's some bad things that pop in my mind too. Some failures on my part and the team's part not getting it done, especially in 07. That's still a very, very, those are difficult memories for me. Because, I thought in 06 that we were on our way to, really kind of doing it every year. And 07 was, for lack of a better term, kind of a bit of a train wreck towards the end of the season, in which, it's still, for me, if you ask, biggest regrets, and not that you can go back and do anything different, but I wish we could have, finished that off, because that one hurt. But the 06 playoff run was out of this world. When Endy made that catch, I mean, it's you hear it all the time, but you look up and you see the stadium legitimately swaying. And that's the loudest I think I've ever been, like on the baseball field. And that was a moment that, again, I can picture it like it was yesterday.
Danny in the middle.
Hey, Danny.
Congratulations, David. Mentioning not only Shannon Ford, may she rest in peace, but we also have to mention Mark Lavine.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know if you have any particular your fondest memories of, and so many of us who knew Mark, was there one particular photo that he shot of you in your 14 years with the New York Mets? What's that one picture that quite possibly is even hanging in your home right now?
Yeah, we have, we got dozens of Mark Lavine shots hanging on. We have a picture wall where he took every shot. I mean, he does a huge favor. And, the week leading up to my last game, the family was in town and we did a huge photo shoot on the field, and those are displayed along our whole hallway. So, I mean, it's you can't walk by, really anywhere in my house without seeing a photo that Mark Lavine took. So, again, it's like, it feels like when you walk into the building, these certain memories, just pop up, and it's tough to see really, any camera, especially at Citi Field or in Queens, and not think of Mark.
Andy.
Hey, Skip. I didn't see you back there.
David, congratulations. What did it mean to you to be named captain of the team, and how did you embrace the Captain America nickname?
I don't know if I can embrace the Captain America. I mean, that's just, I'm not a huge nickname guy. It's the coolest nickname you could have by far, but, it's really, really, really neat. But, the biggest honor that has ever, I guess, been bestowed upon me is being named captain of this franchise. I mean, it's, I can't think of a bigger honor or a bigger, when you think of, being a leader, or in the eyes of the organization, the fan base, your peers, as being a leader, I mean, I think there's no greater compliment. So when Terry pulled me into his office and we had that discussion, I mean, that was, it hit me hard. I understood the responsibility, and it was something that I took incredibly seriously.
The next door.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
Once again. Looking back, what message would you give your 18-year-old self, and what advice would you give to them?
I mean, I think I'd give any kid, and it's not just baseball, is that, it's my opinion that in sports, in schoolwork, whatever it is, that you have a ceiling and you have a floor, and do whatever you can to reach that ceiling. I'd like to think that I was born with some God-given ability, though you probably don't see the athleticism in my parents. But I overcame that to, become somewhat athletic. But I think it also goes back to 3 younger brothers. You're trying to accomplish a goal. Do not accomplish that goal because you didn't work hard enough or you didn't want it bad enough. Because if you set those goals and you really want it, you should empty the tank to try to attain it.
Tim?
Hey, David. Over
Where are we looking?
left side.
Where are we at?
You said at the end, your last game in 2018, that you weren't yet at peace with the end result. I'm wondering, have you been able to kind of achieve that closure? What has that process been like since you played your last game?
Yeah, I mean, I had there was nothing that I could do to, to do the thing anymore. It was just it was done. It took a while for my brain and my heart to kind of match up with that, but. I think that very few athletes get the ending that they want, that storybook ending. I certainly wouldn't call mine a storybook ending, but it's better than 99% of what athletes get. And I'll forever be thankful for getting that opportunity. I think that the send-off that the organization, that the fans gave me, I guess I truly realized at that moment the bond that I'm going to have with this city and this organization for the rest of my life.
Mark in the middle.
Hey, David, congratulations. So you mentioned your first trip to New York was when you signed and you were taking BP and you sent your brothers to get Mike's autograph. Can you reflect on the fact that your number's going up next to Mike's? And also, I know in speaking to you in the past, like 2 of you guys growing up that you looked up to were Cal Ripken and Hojo. What about the 2 of them, stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, and this is going to be a bit of not a generalization, but I was so lucky, and I think seeing the faces that made an impression on my career as a baseball player and a person the last few days, I've become even more appreciative of how lucky I was. You see Joe McEwing back there. You see Cliff Floyd, Al Leiter, Johnny Franco, Mike Cameron's going to be here. I know I'm missing some, but it's to be able to come into that clubhouse and be a naive, no idea what I'm doing 21-year-old kid and have these guys take me under their wing and show me how to act like a professional. I'm going to call it dress like a professional, but it didn't look like it. Looking back on it, certainly wasn't looking professional at the time. But when to be at the ballpark, the preparation, those impressions at the time don't seem like a big thing, but when you look back on it, it was all the difference in the world. So, and then to rewind a little bit about Hojo, how good do you have it as a 17, 18, 19-year-old third baseman in the Mets organization having Howard Johnson mentor you? I mean, I didn't really steal bases until I met Hojo. The defensive side, the offensive side, he gets me to steal bases. I mean, he saw, I think, the ability and the want that I had, and then he started helping me out with finding a way to get there. And I think that the time that he spent with me in the minor leagues, on backfields, working with me on the craft, I think that's why it was so special. When I hit my 30th home run to join the 30-30 club, he was the first one that greeted me, in the dugout. And that's the kind of stuff where it always felt like my successes were just as important as his successes. And I think that's the true kind of baseline of not only like a good mentor, but a friend.
Laura in the front. Oh, sorry, Joe in the right.
David, considering he was next to you for a significant part of this journey, just how important is it to share this day with Jose?
Jose's getting emotional. Is Jose here? Jose's getting emotional. in his old age. So he's going to start crying here in a minute. He's going to make me cry. So this is going to be a whole thing. So, this is, no, I told him this the other day. If I was going to create a baseball player in a video game, I'd create Jose Reyes. He could do it all. The energy, the enthusiasm. He certainly made me look better offensively and defensively. We knew each other. And this story's, I'm sure, I'm repeating myself, but Guy Conte was our field coordinator. I think Jose was 17, I was 18. Called us into the office in Port St. Lucie and told us that we were going to be the left side of the infield for the next decade. And we looked at each other, and we couldn't be more different. And we almost took that as a challenge, and we challenged each other. But on the field, I mean, one of the most electric, dynamic players that you could ever think of. I knew where he was playing. I knew what he was capable of, so I could cheat a certain way and let him cover the ground that he could cover. And then offensively, I mean, it felt like I was hitting with him on third base with less than 2 outs every other at bat. So it made, my job of driving runs in incredibly easy.
Laura?
After the team was eliminated from the 2015 World Series, I remember you kind of ushering everybody out into the field to thank the fans. I was wondering what the moments were like leading up to that decision, and how do you remember that moment? I
mean, the 2015 year was such an unbelievable run. I mean, Murphy went crazy in that postseason. But that team, the unity of that team, and somebody's whose name I haven't mentioned, but, when I think of the 2015 team, I think a lot about Michael Kadire, and I don't even know, is Cuddy. I mean, another guy who the impression that he made on me as an amateur player was, out of this world. So when Cuddy came over, just the professionalism and the leadership is something that I certainly learned from during that run, and the way that he took, in particular Michael Conforto under his wing and helped him, and that's the memories that I have from 2015 are, incredible run. The only time obviously we played in the World Series, and very thankful for that, because I think a lot of us hopped on Murph's back, during that run, and just how we came together as a unit, and we played for each other and played together, and I think a lot of that has to do with the leadership of Cuddy. But yeah, just incredible memories, and it was a lot easier to go to, I guess to answer your question directly, it was a lot easier to go on the field and thank the fans after winning the National League, as opposed to, coughing up a 7-game lead with 17 to play, in 07, and then when we closed down Shea in 08. But when I look back on that run, I always think positively of it.
Lloyd?
Hey, David.
Hey.
I was watching your documentary, enjoyed reliving the Mets-Phillies rivalry. It was nice to see Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins. That was kind of a surprise. And I'm just curious, you took some Don Rickles digs at my old stomping grounds. I'm just curious if that was all in good fun. And just memories of Philadelphia. And can we say that the digs of Philadelphia were just in good fun for the documentary?
I mean, I'm sorry, you're from there? No, it's, you know what, people ask what's my favorite place to play, and I say Philadelphia all the time, because I love the atmosphere. I love the, I love the, the competitiveness. I love the rivalry. I don't necessarily love the city or the people, though, so I'm not backtracking on that. Or the players,
Couple more. One in the back.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
Luis Gonzalez, Quisqueya International. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You've given so much to this game. You've given so much to this organization. What has the game given back to you?
There was that's a good question, because there was what do you call it, like a motto in the minor league clubhouse we used to go to that said, if you give to the game will give back to you. And, I'd like to think that, I went out there and give to the game. And I'll certainly say I think that the game has given me more than I could ever imagine. It's crazy to think that, I'm sitting up here talking about this right now. It still is, and I've used this before. I was a big prank guy, when I played. And, I used to go play pranks and stuff, and this would be the ultimate prank if I get out there on the microphone today and, somebody comes out there and yells, "Psych," or something like that. So, but yes, this game has given me more than I could have ever imagined. And, I'd like to think part of it was because of the work and the effort and the attitude that I tried to give the game.
In the middle.
David, congratulations on behalf of a big Dominican fan base you have that enjoy your relationship with Jose in the past and still today. It's two questions in one. The first one, what do you think a true leader should have today? As a person who wore the Mets uniform and with a lot of pride on and off the field, what qualities do you think a leader should have at this day and today? And which one of the team members, the current team members, do you think could be embracing those traits today? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the leaders that I followed when I was younger were more of the leaders by example. They weren't the loudest, they weren't the most boisterous, but they were the ones that worked the hardest, that if something needed to be said would do it more privately. And then when they did speak up, people listened because they weren't accustomed to them speaking up. So I'd like to think that I took a lot of that from some of the guys that I just mentioned and tried to apply it to the leadership qualities that I wanted to be. And as far as this clubhouse goes, I know a lot of the players by passing. I don't know a lot of them on a personal level. I love Brandon Nimmo. I tell my son all the time that, that's how you should play the game. I love Francisco Lindor. I've gotten to know him over the last couple of years. I love the fact that, I recently found out that he played hurt at the end of the season through, I think it was a hand injury. Nobody ever knew about it because he never said anything because he wanted to be out there grinding with his guys. I love his charisma, the smile. He's the first one. Little things that I pick up on Francisco is he's the first one, to congratulate a teammate when they come in after a great play or a big hit, even when he's 0 for 3, 0 for 4. And I think that speaks volumes of someone's character and leadership qualities. As far as the other guys in there, I don't know well enough to comment intelligently on them. Those are kind of the two guys that, for me, I know well enough to, give you an honest opinion or my take on it.
Couple more.
David, you talked a little bit in the documentary about over here. Over here. Yep. You talked a little bit about the documentary about the World Baseball Classic. What did that mean to represent Team USA and have the World Baseball Classic like you did in that situation?
So in my home office, I got 2 jerseys up that I've hung. One's the World Series Mets jersey, and the other is my World Baseball Classic jersey. That's how much it meant to me. It's as an amateur player, I often got overlooked. I was very jealous of Cuddy. He was always playing on the USA teams as an amateur, and I felt like I always got overlooked or wasn't good enough at the time to make those teams. So I've told myself, if I ever got the opportunity, I really wanted to take it serious, prepare for it, and be ready for that. So, when I got the invite for my first WBC for Team USA, I started my preparation early because I wanted to hit the ground running and make sure that I didn't want to embarrass myself with USA across the front of my chest, and I wanted to take that as serious as I could to try to, put on a good performance to, prove that I wanted this and that I deserved it.
Last one in the back.
Rasheed McDonald, Key International. How you doing, David?
Good.
Congratulations again. You recently spoke on a game-winning hit that you had in Shea Stadium off Mariano Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on what it's like to face your rivals like the Phillies and the Mets and the Braves, and what it's like, that competitive juice that you brought to those games?
Well, that 06 team was fun. It was fun. It felt like we were scoring 10 runs every night, with Hosey and Carlos and Cliffy and Delgado and those boys. And, with Willie Randolph at the helm, the way that I think Willie took Jose and I under his wing, another one of those impressions that, people make on you along the way that might be small things that turn into big things. But that 06 team, as an offensive-minded player, was so much fun because we could beat you in so many different ways. I mean, we could steal bases, we could hit for average, we could hit for power. We had a flair for the dramatic. I felt like we had a lot of walk-off hits that year. And for me, the walk-off against Mariano kind of was my I made it moment. Even for one at bat, when you beat the best, you get this adrenaline rush of confidence that you belong and that doesn't matter who's on the mound the next day, that I can beat them because I've just proven to myself that I've beaten the best. So it was a big step for me. I think it kind of solidified that 2006, at least at the time, was kind of a turning point where, New York was believing in the Mets. And I think beating the Yankees helped with that. But also, for me personally, selfishly, like that gave me a ton of confidence.
Thank you.
David, thank you very much for sharing all your memories.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
There are members of David's teammates and